Freddie Fender, good morning to you.
How you doing, Ken?
I'm doing fine, and this is a real treat for me to talk with you. You were at the Playboy Club this past weekend, weren't you?
That's right, and it was, that we really got a good response from the people. We really enjoyed playing over there.
I'm sure you did. That's, in fact, what you've been doing a lot of, isn't it? Entertaining in nightclubs.
Yes, I did the Condesa del Mar in Chicago and the Playboy Club, and it's a little different from what I've been doing for the last 4 years, but it's also very stimulating and very nice. We also did an Army base in Louisville, Kentucky. I think it's Fort Knox.
Mm-hmm.
And what I liked about it is the people started dancing while I was doing my concert. So I just said, well, come on, everybody, let's get up on the dance floor. And we just had a ball. We did 2 shows.
Uh-huh.
But it was more like what I used to do before, playing for dances.
Boy, I'll tell you, between the Playboy Club and the Condesa del Mar, those are some very nice places to be associated with, I would think.
They really are.
Uh-huh. You started out playing in smaller clubs, though, no doubt, didn't you?
Yes, Ken, but I wouldn't call them clubs. They were really, I had... Well, at first I started, working in beer joints, and then I had a little mess in Louisiana back in 1960. When I got out in '63, a lot of people were afraid to hire Freddie Fender,
Now, why was that, Freddie?
Well, I think it was the idea that people were still very much afraid of marijuana, and they were still watching a lot of movies about how you turn into a wolfman after you smoke a cigarette.
Okay, now why is it that people would associate you with marijuana?
Because I got busted for marijuana, and that's how come I'm saying when I got out in '63 out of the penitentiary in Louisiana, a lot of people wouldn't even talk to me, and clubs such as I'm not going to name any names, but like country clubs, places of supposedly of very dignified places. The managers, even though they wanted to harm me, didn't want to take a chance because they may catch a little rain from up the top,
Mm-hmm. Speaking of rain, that was one of the songs I really loved that you recorded, When the Rains Came, or Then the Rains Came.
Right. The flip side was that you could call it love. Yes. Well, I'm glad you like it. I don't do that song anymore, but I did it for a long time.
Sure. Let me find out more about this. As long as we came up with the subject here of marijuana, and you're in the music biz, is it a problem for a lot of musicians?
Well, no, it's not a problem for the musicians to smoke it. It's a problem for, you can get caught with it.
Yeah, it's just that I guess we've always associated, for some reason, in the back of our minds, so many people have thought, well, some top names have been on the drug, biz, and they needed to keep going because the grueling stress and all this kind of thing of being on the road takes its toll.
Well, I think that, let's say that even if you were working in a nightclub every night, it gives you a how do you say it? A boost or...
A buzz?
A buzz, yeah. It gives you a buzz, and it's like drinking, when you're drinking, you're really loose, and you let out a lot of your things that you wouldn't let out normally. And pertaining to music, a musician who's drinking will play with more of a loose heart and into it, really enjoy it. But then there's that edge, if you drink too much, then you may be thinking you're playing real good, but you're not.
And that's the same for any kind of a drug, I would think.
Well, I'm speaking about grass. I never did do anything heavy. I did some, uppers, pills, because they gave me like pep pills. They gave me a buzz, and it kept me going and make me feel good. I always thought I could sing better like that. But when you say all kinds of drugs, well, I don't know, because I never did heroin or things like that,
Yeah, and
I've seen a lot of guys on heroin, and all they want to do is sit down and listen to music. They don't even want to talk. They just want to sit down there in their own world.
Mm-hmm. How did that the bus come about? You were a musician before you were in prison, right?
Oh, I was. That was in 1960, and I had been recording already since '56.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a musician. I had a little bit. My bass player and I, and one of the guys that was smoking with us, we brought him to the apartment. We didn't know that that he had been busted before, and he had made a deal with the police to whenever we put a little pressure on him, that he would turn somebody in, and we were just the right target for him. And he told him about it, and I had, it was, about 2 cigarettes. We had it hidden in the oven, and we were playing on the bandstand. Here comes this guy, and he he got a paper with him, which was a search warrant for my apartment, and I said, "I'm sorry, we're not taking any requests." I got him madder. He said, "You better get out of that bandstand, you and you know, eventually they took us to the apartment, and they already knew where it was. They made believe that they searched the whole thing and they were going to leave, you know. Then one of them said, "Well, I don't think you guys look good enough." He went straight for the oven and the stove and got him, you know.
I don't want to ask if you've ever done it again or anything like that because it's none of my business, but do you think that the drugs are a bad thing, or marijuana at least? Do you think it's a bad thing, or do you think it should even be legalized?
Well, I'm not saying it should be legalized. I'm just saying that they ought to take it easy on the sentences, especially now that we have so many kids smoking it. I mean, in my time, there were no kids smoking it. The youngest ones that I can remember were 18, maybe 17-year-old kids. But my God, right now you see guys, girls and guys 12 years old, 13 years old smoking grass. And that I don't approve of, because, you know, unless they're all kids, but I mean, I sure don't want to sit down and have a conversation with a 12-year-old who's on grass. What kind of a topic are we going to be talking about? Who won the football game or things like that, you know?
Sure.
And it should be a thing for adults, not for kids. You know?
Well, does it, see, I can honestly say this, I've never tried it, and I guess I'd probably consider it a square by many people. But does it dull your senses, or do you think you're more aware of things? To me, there's so much to enjoy in the world anyway, without, you know, dulling your senses.
No, well, I think it opens up some of your senses and closes up some of them. Primarily, I think driving is one thing you shouldn't do when you're smoking marijuana, because you're taking in everything so slowly, and you can't take anything slowly while you're driving. You know, I mean, the motions and the way you think, and also it gets into a giggling kick. You know, everything is funny. You're liable to see a guy with crutches limping in town. You think it's funny. You start laughing. People think you're crazy. You know.
Yeah.
But I think that it opens some of your senses, like to music or to conversation, or you become humorous. But I think when it comes to like doing something responsible while you're high, I don't think you should do that, because you're dealing with other people. Then you know you're liable to make a mistake even though you don't want to.
Freddie Fender.
Thinking, I guess.
Freddie Fender, hang on a second. I want to break for a commercial, and we'll get back. Freddie Fender is our special guest this morning, and it is a treat to be talking with you. Your musical career goes back a long way, doesn't it?
It goes back to when I was around 10 years old, 1947, the first time I ever started plunking on a guitar.
Where did you grow up?
San Benito, Texas. It's 20 miles north of Brownsville, Texas. I mention Brownsville because it's a border town, and it's the low point of Texas between Mexico and the United States. It's right there by the mouth of the Rio Grande. And I grew up there. I lost my father when I was 7. I was the oldest, and he was from Mexico, and grew in poverty. My mother's family didn't have any money either. We were always renting a home. As a matter of fact, up to 4 years ago, I didn't know what it was to own a house. And now, thank God, you know, I bought my mother a pretty nice house, but I still can't get her out of my house. She likes to hang around with my wife, and believe it or not, they still go garage selling. You know, when they have garage sales.
Oh yeah, a lot of women like to do that.
Oh, I bought my wife a brand new car about 3 years ago, and she was going with my mother to garage sales, and finally she noticed people were laughing at her, and she couldn't imagine why. Well, she had a brand new Lincoln, you know. And the people were laughing, what's this woman doing here, you know?
That's right.
So, you know, I got 2 old cars. I got a 57 Chevrolet, so they drive that one.
Just so it looks good to go to a garage sale.
Right. I think it's great. I think it's great for them to go to garage sales. I like to go too. But they'll really start laughing at me, but I don't care. You know, when I like something, I go in there and buy it, you know.
Hey, Fred.
I like to go to the Goodwill, American Goodwill. You know, I don't mind going in there, and I still do things like that. I like to go to the supermarket and shop there, and you know, the people stare at me, but after I'm there for a while, they accept me, and I'm just like the rest of them.
Well, you know, I don't know. I think it's probably good for celebrities, and you are a celebrity, of course, to get right in and mix with people, because you sort of build up a rapport and you know what people are thinking about, don't you?
I think I'm one of the very few guys that hates to have security. And it probably pays off, you know, maybe sometimes you might have some weirdo, you know, wants to hurt you or something. But I hate to have security. I like to mingle with the people and really get down there. Even when I'm performing, I like to get down and shake hands while I'm singing.
If there's a distance between you and your audience, or you can't relate with them, and then all of a sudden you have problems, don't you?
That's right. You can feel a sort of cold air between you and your audience. But I try not to let that happen. That happens when you're playing mostly like in fairs. Or no, not fairs, but rodeos, where you have to perform right in the middle of the arena, and the people, all you can see is just little heads all over the place,
Yeah, it's like playing by remote control almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like like you're in the middle of the arena in Rome, somewhere like that. And I try to communicate by talking to them, and get some laughs out of them. But it is a little difficult,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have to be a rock artist, I guess, to have a rock audience would be different, because a rock audience is real crazy. But a country audience, they're beautiful people. They're warm people. They're very intimate with the artist, more intimate than any other kind of music. Mm-hmm. And that requires intimacy with the artist and the people. So when things like that happen, it's not very good.
If I can touch on this, Freddie Fender seems to be a name. Obviously, we mentioned that you've been playing for a long time, but it's one of the names that really came to national attention, rather in the near future, or past future.
Part of 75.
First part of 75. How did you, really get to the point where you're, a national celebrity and a national wanted product, Freddie? Did somebody give you a good break, or what was it, a special song, or?
Well, the special song was Before the Next Teardrop Falls.
That was the song that sort of just paraded you to the top, right?
Right. Let's face it takes a song to put you up there, unless you got a real not political, but promotional machine behind you. Where, let's take Fabian. If you remember Fabian?
Sure.
That kid had so much promotion with him that before you even heard the guy, kids were already buying his record. And or the other way, the record's got to prop you up, and then from there you get the opportunity to be exposed to the people in concerts, or if you're good enough and have a big mouth like Freddie Fender, we can get into the talk shows like Dinah and The Tonight Show and Mark Griffin, whatever.
That all helps, of course.
Of course, every little bit helps.
Secret Love was another one that you did that I really liked.
Right.
What's the big one now, or what can we expect from Freddie Fender?
Well, right now I have a song called Walking Piece of Heaven, and I believe it's one of the best songs I recorded. It's one of those songs where it's not rhythm and blues or old rock and roll, or it's really a very much of a country song. Country song, and the fact that it has all a country sound to it. It doesn't have any rock in it or anything like that. It's a ballad country song. It came out of the album Tex-Mex on ABC, and I am now with CBS Records. So I got an album coming out with them. I've done a couple of parts in the movies, and I've written 2 movies myself. We're working on that. We're going to go to Europe in about the 12th. We go to Europe, and we're all over the place. We've been to Central America and Alaska twice.
Sounds like the career is really going along.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know if I have a tremendous career, but I tell you what, I do a lot of traveling.
And you have a lot of...
Sure. Whenever I get to talk to my grandkids, I'm going to have a lot of lies to tell them.
One last question, Freddie, before I let you go.
Okay.
Is Fender your last name, or is that a stage name?
It's a stage name. I think everybody knows that Freddie Fender's of Mexican-American descent. And I'm not real dark like Charlie Pride, but I don't have any freckles on me either.
What is your real name?
Valdemar Huerta. Huerta is my last name. First name is Baldemar, and it's Valdemar, and for short, people call me Balde. But I don't like to tell people too much. English-speaking people, they always end up calling me Baldy.
Well, I'm going to keep it with Fender here, and because I was always wondering about that. If you were named after a guitar,
I was, yeah. We went through a lot of names. I wanted to be called Billy Orbit and Johnny Flash and all that, and finally I ended up with Freddie Fender from the guitar. And he makes a good marriage. Both names have the same amount of letters.
Yeah, and I guess there's something to that, isn't there?
The funny thing about it, the president and the owner of Fender Instrument Company, his first name Freddie.
No kidding.
Yeah, and the son of a gun won't even give me a guitar. Can you imagine that? I'm going to become Freddie Gibson.
Wait a minute, there was a...
Gibson guitar.
Well, there was a Don Gibson, wasn't there, come to think of it, but
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that was his name or not. Freddie, I've enjoyed talking to you, and the best to you. I hope...
Probably thinking about Hoot Gibson.
Well, Hoot Gibson, too, sure, but there was a Don Gibson, a singer, wasn't there?
Oh, God, I just did a show with him in San Francisco. With him and Johnny Paycheck and Tanya Tucker.
Yeah. Freddie, let's do this again sometime if you're in the area.
Okay, I just want to say one thing. You know, that song Walk in Peace of Heaven was written by my very good friend Martin Robles. You know who that is? Martin Robles?
Let me think about it.
Marty Robbins.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense.
Marty Robbins wrote the song. I just thought I want to tell the Marty Robbins fans about it, okay? And I really enjoyed talking to you, Ken.
Thank you, Freddie.
Okay, and don't forget to play my song.
We'll do it.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.